Today, we are talking about, do you feel like an imposter in the birth and baby business world? Hi, my name's Liz Stanford, and I'm one half of BABA, the Birth and Baby Business Academy, the community membership for birth and baby business owners.
And my name's Anna, and I am the other half of the Birth and Baby Business Academy. So we are talking about imposter syndrome, whether you have it, whether we have it, and I think the answer is probably all of us have it to some extent, or at least have done. It's not just about being in the birth or baby world. All humans struggle with their confidence, with sometimes feeling they're not good enough, they're not qualified enough, trained enough. But this kind of concept of imposter syndrome has really grown over the years. I think I hear about it more and more. And certainly the people that come to work with us talk about it a lot. So it's obviously something that many people experience. So it's really not feeling like there's other people in the world, in your world, in the birth and baby world, that are perhaps better than you, more qualified than you, that you're not as good or as could be even as popular as them, or as liked as them, or as qualified as them, and you just feel like you're a bit out of place in this world, and it is something that can really cripple us and stop us from taking action in our business, especially when it comes to things like visibility and being on social media or reaching out to other people, networking for our business, because it can really stop us from taking action and therefore building our business.
Yeah, it's really, really hard. You can end up feeling super stuck and like you don't know where to go or where to turn. And it's really prevalent amongst women, which makes sense in terms of why we see so much of it, because the birth and baby world is dominated really by female entrepreneurs. So yeah, it's definitely something that I know that I have suffered occasionally. So we thought it'd be really good for us to share what we do and also what we have shared with our members at the Birth and Baby Business Academy, because it's become such a thing that we did actually do a masterclass about it quite recently as part of our boot camp, and we shared our framework as part of that. So I'm just going to outline to you what our framework is, and then we're going to dive into a few parts of it. So the framework is called FACTS. So the first part of that is, when you're thinking about imposter syndrome and how you're feeling, is to consider the evidence. So it's find the evidence. And then the next thing is to assess your emotions, followed by communicating with others, then trusting in yourself and your skills and capabilities, self-compassion for yourself as well, and then some somatic work. So that's the framework that we apply to imposter syndrome, and it can be really, really effective. So we're just going to pick a few points and talk around them for a little bit.
Yeah, we don't have time to go over the whole framework, but there's actually quite a lot you can do. And the thing with imposter syndrome, it's not something that we just have to accept. It's something that we can work on. And really, I think I have to sort of work on this in one form or another most days, or at least catch those thoughts. So that's what this is about. It's about catching the thoughts. You may have this overall feeling of not feeling good enough, or being scared to step out in the world, in the birth and baby world, with whatever you're offering or with your knowledge. And it can be really useful to spend some time unpicking that. So perhaps getting out your journal, or find a trusted friend or somebody you can speak to about it, and really try and dig down into what's it making you feel like, because it's different for everybody. How you are affected by imposter syndrome is going to be different to me. So it's good to really understand your sins and work out how it's making you feel, when it's making you feel it. Is there certain times that it's stronger than others? I know for me, my biggest imposter syndrome moment is always around my writing. I have a huge amount of confidence issues with writing, especially when I was writing my book. So I think that's because I sort of perhaps put people who write books in the birth and baby world up on a bit of a pedestal. Maybe I feel like they have got this, huge amount of knowledge, and they can just sort of write it all down. and that perhaps I don't have that same amount of knowledge. I don't know what it is, but it
None of that's
really
true
took a lot
as
of
well.
work for me.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's true either, but that's what the
None of
stories
it's
I was
true.
telling myself. So
Yeah.
and actually that's talking about, when you talked about that, the first bit of the framework, find the evidence. It's like so often these things we tell ourselves are just nonsense.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I was thinking, like, I think my biggest imposter syndrome thing is like scale and size of audience. Like, for example, if you asked me to go and speak on a stage somewhere, we've talked about this before, haven't we, Anna, where
You did,
I would
yeah.
be like, oh no, that's not me. I'm not doing that. I would just be totally like, I'm going to get like booed off the stage or laughed off the stage, or nobody's going to want to listen to me. Those sorts of things go through my head, when in reality, like, I'd probably be quite good speaking on a stage, and I'd probably be quite, well, I know I've got stuff to share, but it's that negative bias, isn't it? Like, we're always erring on the side of negativity, especially when it comes to ourselves and our own capabilities and our own skills.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of digging down into it and really working out, and then, like I say, having someone like you just did for me to go, it's not true. Or, also for ourselves. So sometimes once we write something down on paper, it sounds ridiculous, but yet that's the thought that's been going round and round in your mind quite happily, like as if it's a complete truth. But actually, once you write it down, you're sort of like, that's not really true, is it?
Yeah, even saying it out loud then, like when I just said that out loud, I was like, what am I talking about? Like, I've got stuff to share. I've got so much experience. So you can almost kind of you can start talking yourself out of it. But quite often that doesn't always doesn't just resolve it, or that's not the end of it, which is why, like, the other elements of our framework can really, support that transition of moving those feelings along.
Yeah, it's about acknowledging it first, but then taking steps to try and change those thought processes, those connections in your brain that are having that are on that negative cycle. So we know that negative thoughts do often go around our brains in a cycle, so it's kind of interrupting that. And there's quite a few ways that we do that, isn't there, Baba?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we, as part of our community, we do EFT, which could be part of the somatic work that you do to help move that energy, that stuck energy, through your body, so that you can start to release those fears, those limiting beliefs, and start to feel freer from that kind of like stuck energy. But then there's lots of other somatic practices that people could do, like, there's great breathing techniques. You could do yoga. You could just get out there and do some movement that will help to move those feelings through your body. And it's not about like, oh, let's just get rid of them, it's not, because we're acknowledging, we're accepting, and we're just moving it through. We're like, okay, that's a thing, yeah, all right, that's fine, but I'm not going to let it sit in my mind and in my body indefinitely and stop me from showing up in the way that I know that I should. And also, it reminds me of actually your session last night, Anna, with the new moon in Scorpio, because that's another thing we do as part of Baba. Is Anna does a moon session, and just sort of thinking about that shadow side. So this imposter syndrome stuff, is linked to our shadow side, because it's us thinking about all of the negative things about us, and we kind of want to just like shut it away. But actually, if we kind of bring it into our awareness and think about it, we can kind of see the stuff that is brilliant about us and amazing about us, and then go and do what we need to do.
Yeah, like accepting all parts of ourselves. So not just bringing up those negative feelings and then sort of bashing ourselves about them or feeling awful about them, which is so often what we do. It's sort of, I wouldn't say necessarily embracing them, that we want them to stay, but it's about kind of loving and caring for ourselves about them and understanding that they are normal human emotions. That's where the self-compassion piece comes in, just being really kind to ourselves around having them, but then also acknowledging that they're not helping you right now. So we could do some work on having some more helpful emotions. So when we're talking about building up a kind of different thought process, we might want to think about some other beliefs that we've got about ourselves that are more helpful. So instead of thinking that you're writing your book so that your peers are reading it and have,
Yeah.
and kind of accept it, if you like. Thinking more about, I'm writing this book for parents, so having an affirmation around that. With your talking on a stage, you could have a positive affirmation around, how important it is to you to share what you have to share for parents and other professionals. So coming up with better thought patterns can be really, really useful. We love affirmations. We use them in both of our other businesses because they are shown scientifically to really change the way that we think, and you can really target a specific issue or problem or negative belief head on and change it quite quickly, actually, if you work hard at it.
Yeah, it could definitely make a difference. Great. Well, I hope that was helpful and that you can start to apply some of those elements that we've shared today about imposter syndrome and reducing the impact that it's having on you. And yeah, it's a framework that we find really useful.